Alright, today we're here with another postcom of a 1v1 against a person in Strategema. So the map is just 7 wide and it's across the entire width of the map. So it's pretty large, but it does leave some options to play aggressive or defensive. So basically we know where they are, they know where we are, and for this game, we're gonna be trying to do the classic strategy of 5 farms, city, or no, 5 farms, research, city, 5 farms, another city, and then you throw a university in. So what we are going to do here is just try to build up a lead on the economy using marketplaces, farms, and deep plastic pumps. Once we get all of that, we will be able to play around and hopefully try to gather naval supremacy and really tear them apart via the seas. Since the battleship has an extremely long range of about 5 or 6 tiles, I believe, which will allow us to basically siege their bases and cities from the sea, and there won't have ground troops or units to defend. So basically what is going on is that we are doing the strategy. We got our 3rd city up, and we are researching 2 plastic pumps as fast as possible, and we got that plastic refinery research, so we should be getting a lot of resources coming up. So here we are about to reach that tipping point where when you get the marketplace and start getting the plastic pumps up, you pretty much win the game. So through my scouting and through clever manipulation of the the spying, where you get to see what researches your opponents are researching, I know that they are following their strategy and being really greedy. However, the big difference is that they are using some resources on a barracks. So here I am a little concerned since there's the potential that they're gonna rush us, so I need to be mindful and play around that. So also, if you look at their base, they are rushing to the middle as fast as possible, which means that if it comes down to a hyper endgame situation or scenario, they will have less places to stick cities than us, so their production will be shorter. So out here, I'm thinking of placing down a boat or a navy dockyard to get early exploration of the sea to look for those plastic slicks. But I see that my opponent is not building any troops and units, so I'm relatively safe. And I do, however, build a barracks and preemptively build a couple of the bazookas, because they are very powerful in defending against any machinery rush that they might try to do. So now that I got my marketplace and my plastic pumps, you can see my production is starting to skyrocket, since you can trade in that excess plastic for extra food, which is one of the main bottlenecks in early game. And this will allow us to basically just continue to grow our industry. And yeah, so at this point I have a pretty large amount of excessive resources that I choose to spend on some additional units to just make sure that any hope that they have of rushing will be met with a strong counterattack. So with this army, they basically can't, it's very hard for them to rush us, and yeah. So what is going on is that we're just building up our industry and slowly building it up, but there's not really a lot to do. So I decided to wall myself in here, which walling yourself in is a very smart play, since each wall has about, I believe, 1,000 HP, so it takes a very long time for units to destroy them, and the most viable way to destroy them using the flamethrowers is very inconvenient, since their range is very tiny. So if you could just stick a blob of units behind it, you'll basically be pretty impenetrable. So in this scenario, I basically just have free reign in my industry, and I can kind of just chill and slowly wait for it to grow up. Some notes on industry is that industry, I believe, increases, the amount of food and plastic increases at a similar rate until it caps at 300 food for a plastic pump and 150 plastic, meaning that, um, it's very, like, the first pumps are a lot cheaper since they take 75, I believe they take 100 food and 50 plastic, which means that the amount of time it takes, since it makes 10 plastic a second, is that it'll take about 15 minutes to pay itself off with the marketplace. So the ones that you get at the very end, when it starts taking 450 resources in total to craft it, those will take I believe 45 minutes to pay themselves off. So it's not really worth investing in those. So at this point, I don't think they're gonna rush us. I built a lot of cities, we have a lot of research going, so I'm gonna start my navy goal that I had at the very beginning for naval supremacy. So I make a bunch of the scout ships, or the basic frigates, to explore the map quickly, look for those offshore plastic slicks. So this is where the game is kind of really hard to rush, since they don't have nukes at this point, and don't have nukes at this point, and it's just getting to this point. So this is a very cool thing that you can do. It's a cool quirk of the game where you can build like buildings outside Fog of War. So you can actually build walls up ahead of you to sort of secure that area from enemies, and really make sure to like have reign over the entire map while still being in a safe distance. So a couple of things that I need to worry about in this end game is basically whoever can get to orbitals first. That's the name of the game. Whoever gets to orbitals first has the ability to totally stop the opponent from setting up their orbitals, meaning that basically it just comes down to who can get 3 orbitals up and who can like deny the opponent from ever getting that. So here a plane attacks us. It's nothing to worry about since we have the bazooka army, and we are pretty much just cruising on to endgame, since I know we have a research lead on them. Just look at their industry compared to ours, and at this point the game is pretty much GG, since I can just build up those satellites and they can't do anything about it. So now we are at the point of the game where we have satellites, we can project, we know exactly what they're doing, so we know if they're building up anything, which they're not. And this is where the game gets a little spicy, where our land borders are going to start to meet up with each other, so like the ground units can actually interact. So to prepare for this part, I build up a bunch of ground units and build a barracks and a factory to get up those vehicles and those ground units for the inevitable clash that's going to happen. So this is a pretty funny thing that can happen in the game, is where your opponent can sometimes just like build up a bunch of walls in a huge stack, which there's nothing really stopping them. Walls are really cheap to build, so you can get to like this point of the game where you have a massive army and you're just like pushing the walls, and as you see, I have a lot of the flamethrowers to really get ahead of them. So at this point, we kind of get into this very funny standstill where they're just building walls and I'm slowly destroying them. But I have a navy, so I can flank behind the walls. And at this point, whatever hope that they have a ground invasion is not going to happen. I also have a lot of anti-air turret tanks, so they can't do any of that. And then I just build the bridge around the walls so we can get to their back lines and just avoid all their walls. And at this point, the game is pretty much over and they surrender. So as you can see, if you pause at that, this graph, we had a strong lead towards we just out-industried them, and you can see the exponential factor of how building that industry can lead to domination.